Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for pressing play on this video to learn about how I created my photographic artwork, Forest Bathing. So I created forest bathing a couple of years back, and at the time I'd gone through something fairly traumatic, and I was really obsessed at the time of the science of why people have such a happy time in nature. So I was reading all these books about being in nature and the scientific effects on health, crime, and productivity. And so I kind of ran away to the forest for 4 days. So I went to this place called Lamington National Park and stayed at a retreat out there. And I just basically spent 4 days alone wandering through these ancient forests that are hundreds of thousands of years old, I believe. And so the notion of forest bathing, if you've never heard it, is from Japan. It's, I think their term is Shinrin-yoku. Hopefully I've said that correct. And it's basically, just about the health effects of spending time in nature. And so the intent of my image is that by spending time in nature, it causes us to bloom ourselves. So to photograph it, it's basically 2 different shots. So, the funny thing about this little trip that I did is that I had 18 kilos of backpack with me because I had my tripod and my camera and many lenses and costumes. And I was walking about 15K a day, so it was pretty intense. Anyway, so this Antarctic beech tree, which I've used later on in another image, I took a series of poses here and I took off my hiking clothes, put on this dress and then posed in this way. But I didn't really like her in this position and I wanted to use this background for something else. But this is the pose I ended up using for my main image. The second shot is this one here. So it was a long exposure. Now, because it was a long exposure, I couldn't actually pose in the scene without moving. So I had to do them separately. And I wanted to look at like she was very still and had been still for quite some time. So hence why I used the long exposure on the background. Now, a really fun fact about this picture is, we zoom right in. You'll see this splash of blue and white here. There's also a little bit here. So what that is the Lamington spiny crayfish, and they are only found in this part of the world, and they look like this. Go have another picture. So that's what they look like in the water. And I just thought it was quite funny that I managed to capture a couple in my shot. Unfortunately, you cannot see them in the original, although this little one here you can see a little bit of. And I ended up releasing this image on Earth Day in 2018, just to coincide with the collective message that was happening. So let us work through the image together. So here is our original image. Now, I first did a little bit of cloning. There's a little bit of branches up here that was catching my eye, so I just cloned that out. Then I don't know what this was, maybe my arm. So from a different image, I just cloned in some more rocks from a slightly different angle by the looks. Then there was this little hiking flag to tell you which way to walk. So I just cloned that out, darkened it down, and cloned a little spot here. Gosh knows why. And then I just brought a little light up into the trees at the top. This is popping in her shadow. And again, brought some light up to this spot. Next, we have a girl. So this is the shadow of her hand. Now, her hand was from a different shot. Same little shoot section. I just wanted to give her a hand because otherwise she just looks like she was balancing really, really precariously. So I needed a way for her to actually be putting her weight onto something. So I darkened that down, popped her in a couple of separate shots. Let's see why. Oh yeah, so I really like the skirt from that, but obviously it's a long exposure. It looked a bit weird. Then it popped in the top, and you can see now that the hand makes more sense. Cloned out my bra, did a bit of dodge and burning to the skin. These are just really minor fixes you may not even be able to see. Then just gave her a bit more shadow to match the toning of the actual background and brightened up the top of her. Popped in some toning, which is mostly just giving it a vignette, drawing the eye to the center and darkening the sides. Now, you won't see this, so we'll have to zoom in. But I basically created a little hole in her back. I don't know why it looks weird. I think because a plant will pop in there shortly. But I then just did some toning to make that look more hole-like. Right now, it doesn't look hole-like at all. This here is a shadow. I'm not sure when that popped in, but it did. And now we have a plant. So the plant is a stock image that came from a company called Pixel Squid. They have like 3D renders, so you can rotate them into position. Obviously, it's very, very green and did not fit with this background, so I have changed the color, and then I made the whole thing very green. And this this is made up of always, if you've watched some of my videos before, you will know that I use a lot of toning layers. That's just my personal preference. I just like to throw things on and see what sticks. It's perhaps not the best approach for toning, but it seems to work for me, and I'm often told that the richness of my colors and light is quite nice. So I think that's where that comes from. Then I had another version that I'd edited, and I'd edited it quite differently. So I actually popped it over top and then took a bit of the opacity out just to bring some of that darkness back in. And I think that is better. Yeah, it's just makes her seem a little bit more forlorn, gives it a bit more drama. And lastly, I sharpened her up. So if we zoom in, you'll see before and after. And now that the plant is popped in, you'll see that hole a little bit better. So that is that. The dress I got from an op shop, as I tend to always do. And so this is a little image I created just to remind me of the fact that I can run away to the forest whenever I feel the need, because it truly does make you come alive in beautiful ways. Ah, the wonders of nature. If you're interested to learn Photoshop compositing to make your world magical, then be sure to check out my course, Exposing Illusions, where I teach you everything you need to know to create photographic art of your own. Otherwise, be sure to subscribe so we can hang out again. Happy creating!